Hello everybody. Today we will implement continuous integration and continuous delivery in an Azure Data Factory instance. The idea of doing this, or the benefits of doing this, is that multiple people can work in the same ADF instance without affecting each other, and also that they have a way to roll back to a previous version if they made a mistake. And I think the final benefit is the ability to deploy to other ADF instances in an automated way via a pipeline. So we are going to do this in connecting our dev ADF instance to a repo. In this case, it's an ADO repo, but it can be also a GitHub. And then creating a build and deploy pipelines. The build will take the JSON files in the dev instance and build an R template. That will be our artifact. And then the deploy pipeline will take that artifact and deploy to the instances that we desire. So this is the data factory instance that we will connect in the repo to you. This is the development. So if you have dev, UAT, and production, the repo only will be connecting to this development instance where you will do all your changes, and then the changes for the upper instances will be promoted via a pipeline. So this is the typical case where if we don't have a repo connected, we already did some changes via the UI. So in this case, I have two pipelines, which basically just move one blob to another location in the same storage account. And we will connect the repo for this one. So for doing so, I will go here and set up a code repository and select the repo type, which is in this case is ADO. We'll select the tenant ID. Then I just enter the basic parameters, the organization name, the project name, and the repository name. The first time that we're doing this, we want the artifacts that we have created using the UI, we want it in the code repository. So all the objects that you see in the ADF are represented by JSON files. So we will see that in the code repository. In my case, I already have that in this location, ADF-code, but I will do it again, but in another branch. So to import those resources, I will keep mark this check, and then I can select to which branch I want those objects to be imported. So I will move it to the ADF code. In this case, it will tell me that the resources already exist, but let's do it. It will load all the JSON files in the ADO project. There it is. So now this changed the UI. Now you can see the branches that are attached to that repo. You can create new branches, and then from here you can also create a pull request. So how the workflow once you set up the repo would look like. So we have one make collaboration branch. That's the one from which we can publish our artifacts. And once you have like a new pipeline, you create a feature branch out of main, do your changes there, and then create a pull request. That pull request will be reviewed by your team, by your manager, whatever has that access, and then it will be merged into the main branch. So let's do that example here. So let's say I want to change this no feature flag. I will change the name of this activity. So for doing so, I will create a new branch and I will call it feature update name. And I create this here. And the only change that this will have is update this activity name to output folder 2. Every time we hit save, it's like creating a commit in the repository. So I will save all, and it can just allow me to put the comment that I want. In this case, I will leave it as it is. And I am ready to integrate those changes to the main branch. So I create a pull request, and I can review those changes here. See the pipeline activity, it's updating the name, and I can create the pull request and complete it. Now it is completed, and I can go in the main branch and I can see that the activity was folder 2. However, if I go into the live mode and go into the no feature flag, it is not updated. And the reason for this is because when we do the changes in the code, they are not reflected automatically in the live mode. We need to go into the main collaboration branch and hit publish. Once we do publish, those changes will be reflected in the live mode. And if now I go to live mode, you will see that this output folder was named to folder 2. As you saw, it is a manual process once we integrate the changes into the main branch. So this process of hitting publish every time we integrate changes to the main branch will be automated using the pipeline. So that will be our deploy to the development. And then we will have the same publish for UAT or for prod, but in that case we won't have the connection to the repo. Before we do that, I want to show you what happens the second time you connect the repo. So I will disconnect this repo from this configuration. I will specify that I want to disconnect it. So I copy the name and pasted it here, and I will disconnect it. So now I will only have the live mode of it. So this may be a scenario where you already have your code in the code repository and you want to connect that into the ADF. So the idea then will be the same setup, just that in this case you don't have to mark what is the import of the existing resource. You don't have to mark this, or you don't have to mark this. You have only to specify where is the objects located. In my case, it's in the ADF location, ADF code, and I apply the same changes. In this case, it is not going to override what we have in the code repository. The code repository is the source of truth. Now this was already connected, and I have everything that was updated in the code. Well, I can just go in the code repository and do any change there, and then import it here, and it will be reflected. But usually the change will be done via the UI. Now let's set up the pipeline that will build the JSON objects into an R template. I already have that. I will show you how it looks like. And when I go into my repo, I have this ADF code. Don't pay attention to this ADF IAC. It's where my bicep files are located to deploy these ADF instances. And here I will have two YAML files, the CI and the CD. The CI will be the build and the CD will be the deploy. To do this, we will need a node package called Azure Data Factory Utilities. This is provided by Microsoft. So you only need to create the package.json and put this content into that file. And when we do the build, I will explain this step by step. So here in this case, I have the trigger for the pipelines that I want, and then I have the main branch. And this one, I don't want that this is executed every time I update the ADF IAC. I am specifying what is the pool image. In this case is Ubuntu. And here are some variables. The ADF ID, it's the Azure ID of my ADF instance that I need to provide to the build, and what's going to be the build artifact. So the task consists of installing Node, because remember that we have a package, and then I install that package. Finally, I have two commands which are custom. Those are built in by the package that I provided. So I specified that I want a custom command, and I say run build validate, and I need to specify where the code is and the ID of the Azure Data Factory that I am building. And then the other one, it's to export those objects. So I do the run build export. I specify the location of the code, the ID of the Azure Data Factory, and the name of the artifact that I want to export that. I'm listing those build files, and then I am publishing those artifacts. So let's see how it looks like in an execution. I have that currently disabled, so I will enable. I'll go here and the build, it looks like this one, and install Node.js, install the package that we require, do the validation of the code. So the validation is similar to what we do here. When we do some changes, we can validate here, you see. So that validate step is the same as hitting this button. And then we validate and then build the R templates. Finally, we list the files. I just did this because I didn't know where the artifact was located. And finally, we publish the artifact. The artifact will be located in this location here. So this is what it looks like. It's basically an R template. So the main file is the R template for factory.json, and the parameters that we specify are our template parameters for factory.json. So let's go back to Azure Data Factory and create a new feature branch to see that in action. So I create a feature branch called feature change name to. I created, and I will just change this back to how it was. I save all, and I will create a pull request. So in this case, once this pull request is completed, since we are updating the main branch, the pipeline will be triggered. I will create this and will complete it. Let's pay attention to the pipeline segment. You see automatically it is triggered and it will do the build for our JSON files. Now let's take a look at the deploy pipeline. The deploy pipeline, it will read the artifact that we build with the build pipeline, and here are some parameters and variables, same one. So we have two stages. In my case, I only have two instances, so my idea is to deploy this to the dev and to the UAT. Remember that deploying to dev, it's just going into the ADF instance that we have and hit publish. I used deploy R template files tasks using the Azure command line utility task. I need to specify what is the subscription, which is basically the connection that we have to Azure. And I passed this inline script for Azure. I specify what is the template file and what are the parameters that we are changing for that deployment. So I already mentioned that the template file, it's our template for factory.json. And the parameters, if you don't know what are the parameters, you can check in this location. You can go into one build and then download this template parameters for factory, and it will show what are the customizations that you can pass. So in my case, it's only the factory name, the keyboard properties, and one called the end value. So I do this for dev, same, and for UAT is the same. What changes, it's the values of those variables that I am reading from a variable group called ADF workshop UAT and ADF workshop dev, which are here. So I go here, I can show you how it looks like here. So dev, and similar for UAT. The deploy pipeline will be triggered every time the CI completes. So this time didn't start it because I have disabled. So I will enable it, and the next time it will be triggered. Now go back to Azure Data Factory. Remember that we changed the activity to the folder again. If I switch to the live mode, it is still folder 2. And remember that the last time that we did this was hitting the publish button. We'll do that using the pipeline. And before also doing that, I want to show you that the UAT instance is emptied. It doesn't have anything yet, right? So I will go here and we'll run the CD pipeline, run pipeline, and I will run it for 2. Right now it will be reading that artifact and will deploy it to dev in UAT. For UAT, I have an approval. So every time there is a deployment to UAT, there is going to be someone who needs to hit the approve button. Now it finished the deployment for dev, and that's what I was mentioning. The deploy to UAT has an approval. So let me confirm in the live mode. I will refresh this page and we can see only, and we will see that the activity name was changed. Now let's deploy those changes to this new UAT instance that doesn't have any objects just created. I will review it and I will approve it. So it will do the same deployment for UAT. While this is deploying, let me show you what this pipeline does. So we have an storage account here, which basically has one container and one blob. So the blob is in the input folder, and the pipeline will move that blob to an output. So let me run that pipeline here from the live mode. I will hit run. I trigger now, and I need to specify which is the input and the file name and which is the location that I want to move it. And I will do this, and I will do the same test in UAT, where you see that I haven't touched it at all. It just has the deployment that I'm doing from the pipeline. The deployment from UAT complete, and I will refresh the UAT instance, and here you can see, right, I didn't have to upload anything manually. I didn't have to duplicate any work. It was automatically deployed to the instances. So the link services were deployed, the same data sets were deployed, all the objects that we define in the dev environment were deployed to the UAT. And now the dev pipeline completes here, and it was moved to the output. I will do the same test in UAT to confirm that it is working. The UAT has the same architecture, so it has one container and one blob. So I will execute this not featured flag trigger, and it's going to be the same. So in this way, it's how easily we can automate the process of deploying to multiple environments. So this only has UAT, but let's say that you have UAT, pre-prod, prod. So that process can be automated using the pipeline that I just showed you, this one. This pipeline completed, and I will confirm this refreshing here, and you can see that in the UAT, it is also moving the file to the output folder. Now that we implemented the build and release pipeline, we will see how we can leave some features that are not wanted for other environments. So I implemented one feature that it's just for dev or for UAT or for prod. And since we are deploying the same artifacts, we don't have like a way to tell, okay, remove this in the dev environment or in the UAT. Now we can do an if conditional based on a global parameter. So what I mean by that is, if I go here, I define one global parameter called env, and the env is the default value is dev. This value is customized when we do the deploy. So if I go into the deployment of the YAML definition, I am specifying that parameter here. In dev is dev, and in UAT is UAT, right? And how we leverage that global parameter, we have an if conditional, where if it is true, it goes and move the file to a dev folder, which is output dev, and if not, then I just leave the activity as it was before, which is moving to the output folder. And what is the condition? The condition is that here I am checking what is the value of the global parameter. If it is dev, then go to the output folder dev, and if not, then use the false operation, which is moving to the normal output folder. So in doing so, I can check or I can update the behavior in different environments. So you will see that if I trigger this one in dev, then the value of the folder is not going to be output, but it's going to be output dev. You see, it was deployed to the output dev. Now, if I trigger the same pipeline in UAT, it is not going to be output dev. It's going to be the normal output. Okay, UAT was completed. If I go and refresh the UAT, it was moved to the output. So same pipeline, two different behaviors, and that's how we can customize the pipeline to do X or Y in one environment and Z in another one. And that is how we complete this video. I show you how you can connect ADF to a repo, how to build and deploy those artifacts using a pipeline, and how you can customize the behavior of a pipeline using a feature flag. So hopefully this is useful for you, and see you in the next video.